Fia, can you hear me now? Let me get Susan on board. Fia has just warned me that there's no sound. Fia, can you hear me now? I hope you can. I really hope you can. Ah, fantastic. Okay, that's okay. There's just, a little tiny switch, just moving it slightly. It's so sensitive. Huh. My mic is definitely a lady. She's really sensitive. Okay, guys, so coming to you from the beautiful city of Nairobi, and welcome, Fia, to the live show. Today, we're talking about something that I know, Fia, you like to talk about. It's the highest cost of living affecting our mental health, guys. Hey, uh, unfortunately, I was just talking about the base lending rate, which is usually, the base rate from which they calculate the inflation of most countries. And it's usually about a 10-year period. So we should be looking at about maybe from 2015. Nigeria has one of the higher inflation rates in Africa next to Sudan. Sudan is over 100%, but generally Nigeria is about between 30 and, I would say between 34 and 24%. They haven't really decided which one it is because it depends on which year you're comparing with. If you compare to last year, 2024, it basically is approximately 24%, which is very high. The inflation rate of 24% is high. And compared to countries such as Kenya, probably which have an inflation rate of maybe 7%. So it's about, just a third of Nigeria. So we are having problems. We're having problems in Africa with a rising cost of food, rising cost of living, and it's affecting people's mental health. And Susan is in the background, and I'd like to play some videos for you before I even get into the subject so much, because I would like to set the tone for today. Let me play a few things for you here. And you see, I'm sure you guys have been actually watching all of this. It's not anything new, right? So the reality in Nigeria, let's look at this. Let's look at this, guys. Yeah. Yeah. TikTok obviously is the place I love getting information from because I know a lot of young people.
Rich like this. How is it that we work so hard, yet we can't afford the basics? Food price have tripled, transportation is expensive, and landlords are increasing rents like we are earning in dollars. Even pure water that used to be 5 naira is now 15 naira. How do they expect people to survive? How? Meanwhile, politicians are flying private jets, paying themselves billions, and living in luxury while everyday Nigerians are suffering. Tell me, which responsible government allows this? No. Somebody should tell me, which responsible government allows this? We keep hearing things will get better. It go better. But when? The cost of rice is now like gold. And the minimum wage can't even buy a bag of gari. This country is pushing its people into extreme poverty while the leaders keep enjoying. Like, oh my God. Drop a comment. How much was your last market trip? Let's expose these issues. Because if we don't speak up, they will keep oppressing us. Share this video and follow for more truth about Nigeria bad governance.
Yes, this is where we are. Nigeria actually has the 30 days of rage talking about their government, complaining about the government. And Fia says, true, many Nigerians are complaining online. It's true, Fia. It's actually 30 days of rage, against the government. And I'm going to highlight what's going on in Nigeria here. Let's just look at another one here. Let's present them, let's help them as Africans. Let's all come together and talk about this, because it is a reality. Another one from Nigeria here. Nigeria, I've visited Nigeria twice, and it was quite an interesting experience.
This country is angry.
Hold on.
People are suffering. No one can afford this country is bleeding. This country is angry. People are suffering. No one can afford 3 square meter, even 2 square meter. in our dear country today again.
The cost of living in Nigeria is getting a lot harder for people. Prices for things like food have gone up, making it difficult for many to afford basic needs. The rate at which prices are rising has hit its highest point in nearly 28 years, especially for food items. This means that for 12 months in a row, things have been getting more and more expensive. Factors like the cost of fuel going up and the Nigerian currency becoming weaker are making things worse. The government and the Central Bank of Nigeria are considering raising interest rates, which is one way to try to slow down inflation. But even with some big changes to economic policies like removing fuel subsidies and making the country's value more accurate, the economy hasn't started doing better yet, and prices continue to rise. This situation is putting a lot of pressure on everyone, especially those that are trying to make ends meet. Nigerians, how have you been holding up?
Yeah, another lady from Nigeria. I love how passionate Nigerians are, honestly. Passionate, you know? Yeah, I don't think I have to explain anything more, except just to say that we agree. In Kenya, it's the same situation. They tried to, they actually tried to increase the inflation rate here by removing subsidies on fuel. Immediately, we elected a new president. He removed the subsidies on fuel, and everything went shooting up. And right now, if you go to the city center, you're going to see how many stores are actually closed, how many people cannot do business anymore, you know? It is bad. It is very, very, very bad, and it's not just in Nigeria, but in many countries around the world, we are experiencing the same thing. Yeah. High cost of living, low quality of life. And yeah, it's all over the world. It's all over the world. Let me play another one here from, yeah, let's look at this.
The problems we have right now as the Kenyan youths, we are struggling to accept the levels that we are in, especially financially. And ultimately, we end up taking advice from the wrong people. If you're struggling putting food on the table, take advice from someone who is putting food on the table. You have no business listening to someone who is telling you how to buy government bonds for 10 million. That is how you put yourself into depression. Respect the process. Climb the ladder slowly.
Yeah, and there is a Kenyan youth trying to put things into perspective and trying to show that actually, there's no shortcuts. There's no shortcuts. There's no shortcut approach to life. We just have to go slow. There's no like a get rich quick scheme that's gonna get us out of poverty quickly. I think that's one of the things that is a trap for many young people, that there's so much advertising, this is how you make money, invest here, invest there, buy land here, do this there. But, where's the money to do all of this? Who has that extra money right now? Is this a time to be investing, or is this a time to be saving your money and, and thinking about, being careful with your spending? Is this a time to be really investing in big material things? Yeah. So we have a mental health crisis going on also here in Kenya. And unfortunately, we have a situation where there's a very high suicide rate, and also bipolar disorder and many other kinds of mental health illnesses are showing up. And unfortunately, our healthcare systems cannot cope. They're not coping. I don't really know if I can share. Let me see if I can share this with you. Yeah, this was a lady who was walking, who actually has bipolar disorder, and she was trying to help a fellow patient in Kenya when the person was having a manic episode and could not get help.
Why are you not happy? Yeah.
It's dark.
You don't?
Read it in English. Now, let me tell you in a few words.
Because you're weak.
Mathari is the best most affordable hospital.
Carbohydrates because ya shindano. Enda na yeye. Okay. Hello guys, I'm not going to look at the camera because you're not supposed to record, and definitely I've not recorded anyone's face. So if you have had the first conversation, it's a conversation with a patient. Alikuwa amefungwa kamba kama mbuzi, and right now he's really calm. The reason I'm angry is because it's a trigger. You guys know that I have bipolar and I usually come here, right? So The reason I'm shooting this video is because there is more than 50 patients and it's actually 11, almost 11. And in all those, there's only one doctor. I'm not forcing this to degrade, but mental health in Kenya has been degraded. It's never an emergency. The person I've brought, it's the girl I saw in a Manic episode. And to be honest, guys, Madhari, no. Wanafunga watu kama mbuzi. They don't have strong rooms. Sikatai, I wish ningefungwa, singejivunja mguu wangu mwenyewe mimi huku. Actually, I applaud the fact this is the most cleanest hospital ever, you know. So yeah, I wish there were strong rooms. I wish there were more doctors, you know.
Very interesting and very sad, actually, you know. That lady was decrying the fact that the one mental hospital in Kenya, the biggest one, the government-owned mental hospital, I think it's level 5, you know, hospital, doesn't have strong rooms. That means, you know, rooms where, you know, I think they're operated by electric doors that can keep patients safe away from each other. So unfortunately, they only have like 2 doctors. There were only 2 doctors on that night working. There were 11 patients. Some of them were manic, and some of them were actually tied on the beds or tied like goats. That's what she's saying, tied on their legs like goats. So the lack of mental health support in Kenya is actually worrisome because there's a rising need for it. And the fact is that there's even a governor for one of our counties who has made, you know, who has actually started a new project to try to address the mental health issue in Kenya. Yeah. Susan is waiting in the background. I'd like to invite her in. Welcome, Suzanne, to the show.
Hello, everybody. Looking forward.
Yeah.
Please join us in the discussions.
Yeah, yes, join us, guys. We're trying to start a little bit early. I know it's a Sunday night, but just join us. Let's talk about it. And yeah, come on, you know, let's talk about this mental health issue. It's also good for us. It's good for our mental health as well to talk, yeah, and to chat. So thank you, Susan. So I'm also going to present to you some more clips so that you can see what's really going on in different parts of the world, not just in Africa, although Africa is very important. Let's first talk about, you know, the cost of mental health the mental health services. Are they accessible? Are they reachable? Are they affordable?
Or access. Did you know that about 75% of Kenyans can't afford or access the mental health services they need? Let's break it down. Mental health affects 1 in every 4 Kenyans at some point in their lives. In 2019, the government called mental health a national public health emergency. Now, by 2020, we knew that depression, anxiety, and substance abuse were major problems. Getting mental health care in Kenya was super expensive. Therapy sessions could cost between 1K and 7K an hour. Medications add another 1,500 Kenya shillings to 5,000 monthly. And if you need inpatient care in a private facility, your bill inazagonga 100K a month. What about public healthcare facilities, you ask? They aren't of much help either because they often lack resources, pushing many to go private. High costs and lack of insurance coverage make things even worse. So mbona ni expensive and so hard to get care? First, our national health budget for mental health is very small. Second, kuna so much stigma surrounding mental health, making many hesitant to seek help. Lastly, there's a shortage of mental health professionals. But there's hope, ladies and gentlemen. The Mental Health Amendment Act 2022 and the Mental Health Action Plan between 2021 and 2025 are working to make things better. The new laws mandate insurance coverage for mental health treatments, but we need better enforcement and more awareness. The government also plans to cover mental health under the National Hospital Insurance Fund, NHIF, soon to be replaced by the Social Health Insurance Fund, SHIF.
I think I need to stop sharing that because that has been overtaken by events. Because as you know, you guys, we've been covering this issue of Shifsha and we've talked about the fact that it's actually not working. They're not adequate funds for mental health support in this country, in Kenya, and the social health insurance fund is actually not collecting enough money from the few people who are contributing to it, who are mostly formally employed, and therefore there's a big problem actually currently. That particular video was taken before COVID, so we need to understand the context of some of those videos. But I'm sharing this information with you so that we can all learn together. Yeah, we can all learn together. I see Adrian is here. Welcome, Adrian. I'll be answering a question later. But yeah, let's see what's going on. We know that we have a mental health crisis. Imagine 1 in 4 people in this country of Kenya has a mental health crisis. Now, when you add to that cost of living, high cost of living, then you're really, exacerbating the situation. And actually, that's the reason now that we see such a high rate of femicide. We see a high rate. Do you guys know this lady called Dr. Mumbi? Dr. Mumbi was involved in an accident and she was hurt. I think you guys know about her. She's a YouTuber and she's also a TikToker, and she actually is a government critic. I would call her a government critic, but she was hurt so badly, and it's all, if the cost of living was not affecting people, everybody would be working. Nobody would be bothered about the government. But unfortunately, right now, people are struggling, and you can't stop or mute people. People need to talk. People need to express themselves. It's one of the ways that they actually can address these problems, these their own problems as well. So I also want to share my screen and also show you other people who are suffering. Let's look at this person who is in the UK. UK is not spared either. The UK cost of living, people are complaining. I like TikTok videos because they're short. And
you've worked all your life. You've worked all your life. You've paid in all your life, and you've forgotten. And I just had enough, and I worked it out. Right, I can make. I'm not going to go on no foreign holidays. Them days have gone by anyway. But I could manage, and I'd have a little bit spare just to do what I wanted. But that's all gone now. As daft as it sounds, I'm even washing like my pots, if I do any pots, in cold water. I have a bathe in cold water. Try and limit my showers. I've even I've had to put my fridge freezer in the garage and buy a little tiny fridge and live from day to day. Just sit and think about it, to destroy you. It would, honestly.
So how do you get by? What gets you through?
Him, my little dog. Honestly, my little dog gets me through. My family, my son comes round most days. He calls and just to see me, but him mainly because I can get outside with him. And once it gets winter time, I'm worried again, we're going to be in, and I just don't know. My daughter will say, don't worry, you shouldn't worry at your age. You shouldn't have to worry at your age, but you can't help it, especially when you've never been in debt all your life, never ever. And if we're in my early days, mortgage and loans, etc., but paid off straight away, and never in debt. And any debt that came, if you wanted anything, paid off, buy it on a credit card for security, pay it off. Now the credit card just builds up and builds up.
My God, this is like the saddest story, guys. This man has worked all his life, paid into the National Health Service in the UK. He's showering with cold water. Do you guys know the cold in the UK? Those of you who are not in the UK, do you know how cold it is over there? A man probably in his 70s. He's saying he's washing dishes with cold water. Do you know we should be very grateful and thankful that we're here in Africa? This man, I could actually ask him to come here with his pension. We need to call all these people to come here to Africa with their pensions and live a decent life, because they actually can live a very comfortable life in Africa. If they would agree to move, if they would agree to, try something different, Honestly, this is an opportunity that you guys should not miss. Calling all the elderly people from these European countries, let them come to Africa, let them come and enjoy the sunshine. Honestly, seriously, this is so, so sad. Yeah. Fia is saying, we also had a very cold winter. Temperatures are still low and people are still struggling to put the heating on. This is the thing that makes me, it tugs my heart. When I see the elderly in the UK or in Europe suffering, people who have been working all their lives, yeah, struggling to put the heat on. Have you guys ever tried to live in a deep freezer? This is literally how it is. It is so cold that even your blankets don't work, especially in the UK, because they don't have a very good heating system. The UK is not as rich as the US. I've lived in both places. I could tell you the cold in the UK is biting. And I cannot imagine these people, living off just a little cup of hot tea while we're here drinking porridge in Africa. Oh my goodness, you guys. This is too much. This is too much. Too much. Hmm? Hey, Susan, I have to let you on, man. You have to say something.
Yeah, I was, the cost of living definitely has a significant impact on mental health. I was also watching some videos about different parts of the world. England seems to have, they've shown there are quite a few videos, and they were talking about how it has impacted their entire lives. They've had to reorganize their lives so much so. Change of diet, change of number of meals, pawning of things that they have, valuables, so that they can get money to eat on the table. Changing when I'm talking about change of diet, one spoke about looking in the fridge and just trying to be creative about what is there to feed the family. Um, you know, um, decisions like that, even deciding what to buy, changing your shopping habits, reducing things that you need, and which one was saying, especially people who have physical illnesses, avoiding meals is really bad for them. But they found themselves in that sort of situation. One talked about not being able to buy a house that he had applied for, and because the interest rate was pushing the price, the mortgage payments too high for him to deal with. Others was talking about the widening, more people falling under the poverty line, and really, really struggling. It was quite a painful thing to watch. And like Queen Mo says, I mean, in the West, when it's cold, it's cold. It's really cold. I never knew I could feel that cold. I felt cold to my bones. I understood that phrase when when I went to school there. It was just, and I went to high school in quite a cold part of Kenya, and it was cold. We used to feel cold, but that cold that I experienced was something else. So, I mean, really, when people have to reduce, one of them talked about not using certain electrical appliances anymore because it's too costly. The cost of electricity was too high, so now they stopped using those those electrical appliances, all of them. They just stopped using them. So there's a lot of adjustment that has taken place in people's life, just to survive, just to cope with that. And it is very, very stressful, especially if you have your family there and they're all looking to you to to feed them. They're all looking to you to guide them through that, but that change in, literally, it's a change in status, or to help them through that. And of course, the institutions that are offering mental health care are are busy. I listened to one video, and the lady was talking about this is in England, the meditation centers having more customers than they've ever had, because of the cost of living. So people need to do something to de-stress, because stress can actually really put you in a difficult situation. Some of the things that you find people doing when they're very, very stressed is even developing psychosomatic illnesses. Even when you rush them to the hospital, they can't find anything wrong with the body until they realize it's actually a mental thing that is making that person feel so stressed. So it's something that we are feeling all over the world. I mean, um, right now, I think even in the US, with the change of policies, which has impacted price of certain items like eggs. The eggs are, almost 100. If you're in Kenya, they're almost 100. One egg is almost 100 shillings, and you can't even get them on the shelves because of avian flu. And with the budget cuts, it has affected the research and the monitoring of these type of conditions, which was something that used to be done in the past. So we hope, that's the issue. That's the issue there. Again, and I was just reading. Interestingly, I just decided to check, and I remember because we were adults when that happened. That the highest inflation rate in Kenya was in 1993, and it was at 46% in May, and was around 50% in September 1993. And that was when people lost their homes, people lost their property because they had taken loans. And then what was happening was the interest was so high that they could not service their loans anymore. And so they suffered, and we've talked about this budget fatigue. And of course, because they didn't have available income, the cost of living was impacting their families. You can imagine the devastation to the families when your standard of living goes down. You may even have to move house to a smaller space, to a different part of the city, a smaller space, more cramped. And again, when you're all cramped and you don't have your own space, it can also have some mental health effects. Yeah, so some even complained about not being able to sleep because they were so worried about there not being any food on the table. And that's the reality. So there's increased anxiety. So maybe manifesting in things like insomnia. People who have migraines, that can just go out of become a big problem. Vertigo as well. Depression on the increase. And other mental health issues, especially for those who have pre-existing conditions, those who have, like bipolar disorder, like that young lady talked about, that we heard saying because of the stress, the queues were so long. She's talking about 50 patients at 11 o'clock at night, waiting to see the doctor. That is something else. And, if you have somebody who's not getting the medication they need and they have a mental health problem, then it can be even more stressful for the family and the caregivers who are looking after that person. So the feelings that you find there is that even when we watch the videos, I'm sure Queen Mo will agree with me, and even Fia and anybody else who's watching, was the shame. The shame, and that you literally have had to change so many things. You can't eat you stop eating certain foods completely. You reduce the number of meals you have. You can't even buy a new dress even though you need it. It's a need. You can't even buy that because you just have to decide whether you're going to pay for buy food or buy the dress. The embarrassment, the guilt also for not being able to provide for your family or take care of your family, or even respond in a way that will enable your family to thrive in time, in tandem with what is happening to the economy. Substance abuse, I think somebody there mentioned it, said we're taking drugs. I think the Nigerian clip, taking drugs, taking alcohol, because they're overwhelmed. That sense of feeling of overwhelmed is there. And so they're so numbed, and it can result actually in disasters, as Queen Mo mentioned about self-harm. And even, they could be self-harm, and then they could be unaliving, and it could even go to the extent, if it's even worse, to familicide, where you say, well, we can't cope, we can't manage anymore, we can't take the shame, we can't take the embarrassment, we've lost our house, now we're living in, we're almost on the street, and stuff like that, and things like that, not being able to buy medicine for your child who's sick. That is so difficult. Right now, I think in Kenya, the chemists are doing really well, relatively. Let's put it relatively, because people can't afford to go to the doctors, so they're going to the chemist and asking them, "What do I take if I have a cough? What do I take if I have this? What, and the sort of thing." So it's become really complex.
Susan, there are a couple of people who want saying some things to you. One of them is Adrian, and he's saying that there's this backstory. 1993, high interest rates and mortgages. I remember that period, 1993, and then he was talking about providing a different perspective on what the government of Kenya was doing in terms of fiscal and monetary policy, if he can recall. So I asked Adrian to explain it because I know that he's an expert at that. And Grace is saying, Susan, the indignity of shifting to a less than standard of living. Grace, let me answer before Susan does. Absolutely. Absolutely. And by the way, do you know that includes some of us, including myself, by the way. I'm here. Although I'm fortunate, I'm fortunate because I'm home. Okay, I'm home. But you see, the thing is that coming from a situation where you're living in a 6-bedroom house that you're able to rent out somewhere like in Karen, or live in a very beautiful apartment in the high-end estates in this country, Kilimanis, Kileleshwas, and then now a huge population is moving towards Gong, Matasia, lower income areas. And you see these beautiful Mercedes Benzes, they have moved that direction. People are moving away from high, expensive houses and they're going to mashinani. It's a very different environment. And you know how you can tell? If you go to the supermarkets in that area, you can see people shopping. Now I see people shopping in Gong, in Matasia, in Vet. Places that I used to shop anyway, because for me, I'm always looking for fresh produce and it's kind of closer to my parents' area too. So, I mean, that's normal for me. But many people would never have stepped foot in such places. And now they're down there. But the good news in terms of that is there's a lot more housing coming up there and it's much more affordable. Better quality of life in terms of fresh air, fresh food. Some people can actually grow their food in their compounds or on their balconies in some sort of sacks. So people are trying to reduce their spending, out of pocket spending. Children being moved, that's the hardest part for kids. Children being moved from international curriculum schools to regular schools or from private schools to public schools. That's very hard on the kids, by the way. Very hard on them as well. Yeah, but it's true. It's also, you feel that indignity of moving. And, but the good news is that when you're many of you, I think, there's power in numbers. Then you can sit down and talk together about it. Some people have been smart and they've been able to invest in their own shelter, in their own homes, and they're using different kinds of materials to build their houses, affordable materials, yeah, including mabati, yeah. And so, I don't know, people will just have to learn to figure it out because it's a global concern. I'd like to, Susan, if you allow me, can I play one more video, then you can continue? Okay, yeah. So let me play something else, guys, so that you can see. I want to take you around the world to see how everyone is doing. This is some in Perth. Perth is in Australia, in never eat shredded wheat, in Western Australia. Do you know how I remember the compass? Never eat shredded wheat. So northeast, southwest, yeah. All right, so let me play this. Oh, sorry. No sound. Add sound to it.
$10.90 for a block of cheese. $4.23 for a couple of tomatoes. $3.70 for the cheap lettuce. $3.60 for literally the supermarket brand cheapest wholemeal bread, $6 for a plain packet of butter. That is $28.43 just to make a plain sandwich. No meat, just cheese, tomatoes, and lettuce. Our community is doing it tough every day at the checkout. And what is this government actually doing about it? Apparently not a thing. They know what the problems are. Still, nothing. The government needs to break up Coles and Woolworths. These massive corporations are making millions in profits while people have to make the choice between starve or pay their exorbitant rent. Now, one of the reasons Coles and Woolworths gets away with ripping us off is because either directly or through third parties, they donate hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Liberal and Labour parties in the last decade alone. Well, look where that has got us. $28 just to make a sandwich.
Wow. Wow. That is too much, you people. People are suffering, people are suffering. $28. Hey, Susan, note that one for the parking lot. We're going to come back to it. $28 to make a sandwich. My goodness. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay. Meanwhile, here is what people are doing about it. Yeah, I'm going to show you different things. What some people are doing to try to cope. This is what they're doing.
I moved to Malaysia 3 years ago. How much did I spend throughout the month of October? Here's my cost of living by category. The total may surprise you. Rent in this amazing condo, 2,000 ringgit a month. Utilities, 200 ringgit. Fees, 344 ringgit. Groceries, 740 ringgit. Food, 888 ringgit. Lucky. Health, 187 ringgit. Transport, 334 ringgit. Phone, 30 ringgit. Digital subscriptions, 76 ringgit. Business costs, 800 ringgit. Entertainment, 25 ringgit. Shopping, 200 ringgit. Grooming, like haircuts, 105 ringgit. Dating, 700 ringgit. Travel, I do a lot, but I didn't book any this month, so zero. The total, 6,820 ringgit, 1,590 USD, or 2,356 Aussie dollars. The strong ringgit helped as I earn locally and send money back home. Inflation, not for me. My expenses are actually down 20% since last year. Let me know your experience with cost of living in Malaysia in the comments. I moved to Malaysia.
All right. So this is what people are doing. They're moving countries. A lot of Europeans are moving to the south. The global south is becoming popular. A lot of people are moving to Kenya and to African countries. And they say that they're coming because they want to see, the life in Kenya, the beautiful Nairobi. But really, the fact is that they're looking for a cheaper place to live. Those countries are becoming impossible to live. Yeah. And Fia is saying, here people are pushed into poverty by unaffordable private housing and bankrupt councils who don't have the resources to house people. Yeah, that's in the UK. Wow. Yes, it's true. Housing costs are so high in the UK. And she also says a London council wants to buy properties up north to house people, something we never heard of. Wow, really? Yeah, so they're actually competing. It's not a conflict of interest. That sounds like a conflict of interest. Yeah. And Adrian is asking, what I'm asking is whether Kenya government was tightening things. Was it cutting budgets, spending? What was government stating as a reason? The rule is government being in surplus must mean something else has to be a deficit. Okay, something else has to be a deficit. Yeah, if government is in surplus, something else has to be in deficit. It will either be private sector investment, savings. Anyway, Adrian, I'm not really sure I understand very well, but anyway, maybe if you come in and join us in studio, you can explain a few things about what's going on in Kenya. But at the moment, we were just... Yes, Susan?
Yeah, I was just going to...
Okay.
I'm just going to respond to some of this. I was looking at, I was doing some research on that. And they're saying that the factors that contributed to the inflation was a dual exchange rate system, relaxation of foreign exchange controls, excess money supply. Yeah, he's talked about that. Excess money supply, a shortage. You remember the Jirongo? You guys remember the Jirongo? The Jirongo was 500. Yeah, was maybe Adrian will remember that. The Jirongo was 500 shillings. supply, excess money supply, a shortage of foreign exchange, price decontrol with inadequate supply of essential commodities. So the price decontrol with inadequate supply of essential commodities and increased spending before the 1992 elections. So there was an aid embargo and fiscal deficit. So the aid embargo at the time also contributed to money supply expansion, and this is a very economic talk, as the escalating fiscal deficit had to be financed by money printing. And we all heard about that, about money printing. The fiscal deficit had to be financed by money printing. So there was a lot of like money in the market. But of course, we know where the question again that we're asking, even in this season, is where is the money? Well, who is controlling? In which sectors is that money? Which people or which areas, or where is that money anyway? And then Treasury bill discount rate to mop up the excess liquidity. The Treasury bill discount rate rose, which pushed up the inflation rate and caused the exchange rate to depreciate. And then high inflation in, the rate of inflation as measured by the Composite Consumer Price Index for Nairobi remained high through most of 1993, exceeding 50% in the 12-month period ended September 1993. The source of this is the IMF's Staff Country Report, volume 1995, issue 133. So these are some of the factors that contributed to inflation. Was the dual exchange rate system. I think we can remember that. Relaxation of foreign exchange controls, we can remember that. Excess money supply, a shortage of
And
foreign
the aid
exchange.
embargo, there was a very long aid embargo during Moi
Yeah,
era.
yeah.
I think it was almost 10
Yeah.
years long when we didn't have any aid at all. And I remember those days when people were sitting on the pavements out in Nairobi and trading. Fortunately, at least for Moi, he understood that people needed to make a living. He understood that the very poor still needed to make a living. But I think this particular government doesn't really think that way. They don't really have the same concern for the regular Mwananchi, for the regular person on the ground. Yeah. And Grace is saying, Mo, there is an influx of Americans in Kenya. The advanced teams live off the grid. Some in Vidigwa, Kiambu, Kilimani. They do their shopping in Kawangware because of the fresh food and clean air. Definitely, definitely. Grace, today out here in Karen, at least when I went to Karen, not even Karen, it's around the hub. Can we call it the hub? Where there's a big mall, shopping mall. For those of you who are not Kenyan, sorry, but the hub is a shopping mall up in Karen. I saw and I have been seeing a lot of Europeans, people with different skin tone, walking comfortably on the street. I was actually happy. I'm happy to see people walking without their dogs, because unfortunately, like for example, in the Karen area, you'll find that most people who are white, actually, they walk with their dogs. They say that they're walking their dogs, and yet they're living in compounds with huge acreage. They don't really need to take their dogs on the walk. They take their dogs because of security. But recently, I have actually seen people of all races and colors and tones using their bicycles, riding, walking without dogs, which is very good. I think people should feel free. And in fact, there's somebody who actually made a comment on that. I believe it was a taxi driver that I was using. It was a driver that I had, and he said, hapa ni kwao. This is their country now. They're free. They walk everywhere. They're all over the place. And this is something that you start to notice. And the West is not telling people that many, 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 many people are moving down south. They're moving to Africa. They're moving to Asia. They're talking about Asia a lot. The Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, even Australia, but not even so much Australia. But they're not talking about the people who are moving to Africa, and there are so many. And we invite them, let them come to Africa. Let them come to Africa, but please, let them remember to respect everybody. They better respect us, according to Grace, she said they're coming in as investors, but actually looking for places to settle. It's true, they're trying to settle down. I noticed this trend actually started in the coast with the older, like German and Italian tourists, because I lived in the coast for quite some bit, and I still do live in the coast for quite some time. And many of them have actually built houses. They're building houses deep inside places like Ntwapa, deep inside the bush in the village where you and I would be afraid because of mosquitoes. They're building big houses down there, big German-looking houses over there, Spanish bungalows. They're building in there. And the rest of us are here thinking that they're going back. No, they're not going back. They come for coffee every single morning. They all meet up for coffee. And one of the things I do like about the foreigners is that they always try to find a way to come together, especially because these are the retired community, many of them in the coastal area of Kenya. So yeah, we are very welcoming as Kenyans, and we have to be afraid of that because there's some people who are not nice. But generally, a lot of the people who are intelligent, they will come and they'll move quietly and quietly spend their retirement in countries that are warm and welcoming like Kenya. But of course, Kenyans are also very alert about and sensitive to people who come from other countries and how they treat us. We're very sensitive towards this. But as long as people come in peacefully and respectfully, Kenyans are very friendly. Compared to very many Africans, we are very friendly people towards tourists and people from outside, from everywhere. Yeah, Adrian is saying a few things. He's saying, I feel there's a big conflict that's imminent. My 2 cents, people are running away. Where are they running away from? You mean from the Western countries? Yeah, well, I've been seeing that actually online, Adrian. I've been seeing people are saying, oh, things are bad. Adrian is talking about having an issue with money printing, but we'll discuss it later. What else? I think there's something else he said that was quite interesting. What did you say? Anyway, we'll catch up with you guys. Just keep on chatting over there in the comment section while us guys are chatting over here. Cost of living affects all of us. So, of course, it's an interesting topic. Go ahead, Susan. Sorry for the interruption.
No, yeah, so that's what the IMF report said, that was actually what happened at that time. Again, we had a very high inflation rate after the post-election violence. And in May of 2008, remember there was a bit of unsettlement before they came up with the government of national unity, before they came up with the handshake with Raila and Kibaki. Remember, so there was some sort of power sharing. So there, the inflation rate was 35.5%. Which is really, really high again. And that really impacts on the cost of living. So
that's higher than the current inflation rate in Nigeria that they're all crying about. Kenya has been through that,
Yeah.
Nigeria actually has been quite rich. Those days, Nigeria, I think the Naira was trading at 7 Naira to the dollar. They were doing really well, they were strong.
Yeah.
Very strong.
Yeah. Currently, our inflation rate is in February it was 3.5, up from 3.30. Remember when we had the State of the Nation
address? That's the official
address?
one. The unofficial one.
Yeah, that's the official one. Yeah. Yeah, in October 2024, it was 2.7%. And of course, we looked at that in previous shows and said it really was talking about, or the implication of that was our economy was lazy. And it was lazy because people didn't have money to spend. The government was competing with private owners, people in business, for loans. And of course, the banks preferred to give money to lend to government rather than to individuals. And so, and that's just one of the factors. But basically, Kenyans do not have money in their pockets to pay for anything. Just to also go back to some of the effects or changes because of the cost of living and the impact on us as individuals, as families, is the wholesale buying. We found women coming together and going and buying things in wholesale and then dividing it so that they can get more value for less money. So you go to the wholesaler shop, and that number has increased during this period. Also, the
that's happening actually in my sister's neighborhood. and all of
Yeah,
us were buying from one particular wholesaler and then dividing. Like you buy a big
yeah,
bale of flour and then,
mm,
different families divide. The same thing with sugar, you know?
yeah,
Yeah, you buy a big sack of sugar and then everybody divides it. It's happening more
yeah,
and more with the middle class. It used to happen a lot.
yeah.
It has always happened with people at the bottom of the ladder, but the middle class has not really been doing this. Now we are. Now we are. Things have really changed.
Yeah, the other thing is working from home. I think there are more people, their offices are closed, so they're actually
Hmm.
working from their homes,
Hmm.
to reduce the cost of having to pay rent. Um, I learned from somebody who was, during the COVID season, there's something their business learned is that the tea and coffee that is drank was quite a substantive part of their budget. And by people working from home and all that, they saved a lot of money because they didn't have to pay like 2 million shillings per month on tea and mandazi uh,
Hmm.
for the staff. So
Hmm.
I found that really interesting. That's something that we consider to be just like a basic requirement. Basic thing can be so costly in
Hmm.
terms of in the budget of the organization. Yeah, so it's definitely mental health issues that are going to be there, and some of the things we need to do is innovation. I think we more talked about it. Find creative ways of continuing to earn. And I watched some videos where these guys are doing something unusual, and they were doing some sort of painting, and trying to find ways to keep people engaged, mentally, and ask for help. You change the way you live. That's we talked about that. Um, the other thing I found really interesting was the avoidance, not wanting to talk about the struggle, people not wanting to speak about it. When we're talking about the shame of it, is that avoidance because you don't perhaps want people to know that you're struggling so much. And this video I watched was one in the UK, and I can imagine it's not just the UK, it's all over the world. Any family that has had to go through that transition or that change
Hmm.
in livelihood, that change in status and income, that definitely many would not want to talk about it with others, don't want to share it with others. Um, and then we had to, the increased borrowing from friends and family, so that
Hmm.
you can keep up. And now it's even more precarious situation in Kenya is a bit more concerning because of the healthcare issue and the
Hmm.
fact that the issues with it. And so if somebody gets sick in this season, if you are not covered well, because some people are benefiting from it, but not everybody, from the healthcare system, you have to dip into your pockets as family and friends to really help. And then shopping for the lowest prices. Queen Mo talked about going to different places looking for fresh food, but I'm sure there's an element of the price as well. You want fresh
Hmm.
food at the right price for your pocket.
Hmm. Hmm.
That is definitely there. And of course, sometimes you have somebody with special needs in your home, so you have to look for organic food. And organic food is actually really expensive in Kenya, and I suppose in other parts of the world
Yeah.
as well.
Okay.
Um,
Hmm.
and if that is a necessity in your home, it's expensive, but it's a necessity. It means you have to cut down on other things that you know
Yeah.
so that you can be able to buy that particular type of food.
Yeah.
Um,
Susan, Grace is saying, Mo and Susan, can we talk a little bit about the social impact of the cost of living? Families are breaking up and social structure is fragmenting because of family income. That is true. Why don't I play something for you here? It's actually very true what you're saying there, Grace. And feel free to expound on it. Yeah. We know that we have a high male suicide rate, but listen to this guy here. Listen to what this guy says.
In Kenya, you are lucky because whatever happens, whether you lose your job or whether you're in addiction, whatever happens, the people will come through for you, and they will even have the diagnosis. What I could diagnose, need depression. you have depression and you need our help. And within 24 hours, the public will raise 2 million, 3 million for your treatment. And a certain rehab center, a mental health institution will come and say they will help you in quotes. Of course, there is the money that is being raised. And everyone will start talking about, oh, how our young men, our young women, they are suffering from depression. And I'm wondering, Nani, do you know what depression is? Yeah? The number of people, if the counselors, the psychologists were to talk about the people really struggling with depression out here, yeah, people who have been living on the edge for months and years, yeah, living on the edge kabisa, yani ni ule mtu anabakisha tu hivi akunywe dawa ama afanye kitu. But when it is a case of a celebrity, we all have to come through. Actually, it's almost like it's demanded of us. Now I wonder, what about the millions who are out here really struggling? Because I'll be frank, there is so much hypocrisy in every case. Yenye kama sasa over the last few months, 3 months, tumekuwa na about 3 cases of prominent people wenye wamejipata in addiction na wamejipata in situations of mental health situations, and the people have come through all of a sudden. And I'm asking, where were those friends? Hawa wanachangisha walikuwa na hawa watu when they were drinking, when they could even see, and they were friends. Walikuwa tu wanaona mtu ako na show, mtu ako na maybe gig, badala hata alipwe cash, analipwa na pombe, yet wewe ni rafiki yake, mnakunywa na yeye the whole night, mnapiga gitaa na yeye, wewe ni rafiki, hauoni pale anaenda, you even know mamake pale anakaa, vinye anakaa, hata penye amerent, hata pengine si kwao, unajua hiyo mambo yote, yet unaona venye anakunywa maybe na wasichana and all that. I'm just saying, you know maybe this guy is struggling with or this lady is struggling with a marriage issue na nini, lakini wewe as a friend, because wewe ni MP ama wewe you are a musician, wewe kunywa hii mambo achana nayo. And then when things go south, because now there is no more money coming from brand influencing and all that, wewe ni wewe wa kwanza kusema, oh, we have to come through for our friend, it's so sad seeing my friend depressed. Come on, ulikuwa unaona, you are there. If you are a real friend, ungefanya kitu hiyo time.
Okay, this is talking about social accountability and being accountable for your friends, looking out for each other, talking about what Susan has been talking about, the hypocrisy amongst friends, where they see each other going down the rabbit hole. You're drinking, your friend is addicted to alcohol, and all of a sudden you pretend that you don't see when they keep on drinking. In fact, you pay them with alcohol. When you go out together, you pay them with alcohol, and you gift them. So let's say gift them with alcohol. And then in the end, when they're in a big problem, when they're having a marriage crisis, financial crisis, everybody's coming around to help them pay for their mental health costs or get them out of a financial situation. And it's always related to it's always better for celebrities, but what about the millions of Kenyans who are suffering? And it's true, like what Grace's agenda is saying here, that the cost of living is actually breaking families apart. It really is. In fact, there's a trend on TikTok which says the useless things that I got my child. Have you guys seen that? Susan, have you seen that? The useless things I've got my child. You know what it is? It is exposing deadbeat dads. These are single mothers exposing deadbeat fathers. And they're calling them, the deadbeat fathers are fathers who do not contribute anything to their families, any finance to their children, and the separated couples, and then the man. And they're showing men in very prestigious positions, doctors, lawyers, engineers, whatever, architects, people in uniform who are contributing nothing to their children's well-being. Yeah, so they left their families, they left their children, or they have children out there and they're not looking after them. So, single parents right now, talking about families breaking up, single parents right now, especially single mothers now, are exposing men and they're calling them the useless thing that they got their child. So, in other words, the father, the deadbeat father, is the useless thing. And the worst thing right now is many men are afraid of being seen. They're actually afraid of being seen, and they're like, oh my God, have you guys, in case you have a child out there that you're not looking after and yet you know that you're a deadbeat dad about, please contact the mother so that they don't expose you on TikTok with the useless thing that I gave my child. I'm going to try and play one of the videos for you here. But by the way, this is a trend and it's kind of like an unspoken, it's a way to kind of camouflage the stress in relationships and families, the stress of providing, the stress single parents are feeling providing for their children when the fathers are nowhere to be found. And Grace is saying, he's talking about fair weather friends. This gentleman, yeah, he was talking about fair weather friends. So it sounds like the friend has a problem with keeping up with the Kardashians to maintain a lifestyle for the gallery, but friend and celebs are toxic. Both friend and celeb are toxic. Yeah, that's true. The friends themselves and the celebrities themselves are toxic, and they're toxic for the rest of the society. That's right, for the gentleman who was talking before that. But, we're talking about like families breaking up now. Yeah, that's true. Susan, would you like to say something about that?
Yeah, for sure. When there's little to go around, um, incidences of disagreement. Some of it can be really really serious. Some of it can be even with the violent altercation. There has to be police intervention. How it affects the children. Maybe the children are hungry because they can't eat as many meals as they used to eat because of this change in status. Yeah, and then maybe you have to borrow money just to put food on the table, and even the shame and the guilt that the parent experiences on having to do that, and maybe the one spouse doesn't want you to to ask for money, and they say, oh, you don't trust me to look for it, or you've embarrassed me. Who did you ask for the money? You say you had to ask your mother, say, or your father, and that is just, it explodes. And obviously, because now you've embarrassed, say, your husband, and it looks like he can't take care of the family. That's in his mind, of course, and it becomes something really really tragic, and the family has to just split up. And you can find that maybe even those between siblings, the feeling maybe perhaps one is treated differently from the other. You may even have some really tragic experiences in the global south, where some children may not be going to school and others are going to school because that's what the parents can afford. Or maybe one of them has a scholarship, and so that one goes to school and the other one doesn't. So the choice is, do we feed you or do we pay school fees? That's where it boils down to. So it can be, the cost of living can really really impact families in a significantly and in a very very negative way. um, in other circumstances, you find families rallying round to see, depending on the type of family, to see how can I contribute to the economy of the household. And you find some people trying to do things, being innovative about how to really bridge those gaps, even from the youngest person in the home, trying to see how can we work together. And perhaps that is not what you call the atypical family, but that would be a situation that would be better in that sort of situation. But we know, when there's less, there's competition, there's anger, there's rage, and all that type of thing going on. And we know that, for instance, and then of course the people who normally come and quarrel at home because they don't have the money to do whatever else they wanted to do. And so now the whole family becomes a very very toxic space. And so of course we have to get the counselors. Children again have to, they have their own issues, their grades are dropping, there's all sorts of things happening in the house. Maybe they've even outgrown their clothes and they can't fit in them, so they're going to school in smaller clothes, and then they're being ridiculed by others. Maybe the boy has grown so tall the trousers are now short, and so the other children are laughing at we know how mean children can be in school. So it's a really sort of complex mix of social issues and effects that can continue to exacerbate and make your mental health issues even more and more serious. Especially if they're pre-existing, it can get worse and worse and worse and worse. And even that change in habit of shopping for lower prices. You may have to maybe walk, maybe the way you used to go to work, you used to get on a bus or maybe drive. Now, because you save that money, you walk. So it means you have to leave the house maybe earlier than
Yeah.
usual
Yeah.
to walk. This lady was talking about she would go, one of the things she's doing now, this is in the US, is she's driving around looking for the petrol stations which have the best price. And then she's putting it on she has a network of friends and telling them this petrol station has the best price. I mean, imagine.
We're not even
That's
there yet,
literally
but
a
we might
job.
end up getting there. Yeah. Oh my
That's a
God, that is
job.
horrific. Yeah.
That's a job.
Can you imagine
Looking
you'd
for
be
places.
wasting all your petrol looking for the place that has, don't they have GP? Oh my gosh, I think we're very advanced in Kenya. Those are things we would have found out a long time ago. Huh? Susan, would you allow me to
Yeah.
play something from
Yeah.
the useless things I got my child? So that you guys can see what's going on social media. Those of you who are not aware, we're here to educate you so that you know. Things are not good. Here. Oops. Yeah. Unfortunately, I'll be showing a picture of a little child, but you'll see it anyway. They're talking about deadbeat fathers. Look at that beautiful little girl. And that's her father. Deadbeat. Okay, that one is being exposed. In 1 second, the person is exposed just like that. Yeah, just like that. Sorry, I hope you saw it. Did you see it, Susan? Did you see that? Did you see what I just
No,
showed? Oh, you did not
no,
even see
we
it.
didn't see.
Oh, I
We didn't
see.
see.
Okay. Okay. Let me try it again. Sorry about that. Yeah, because the way it showed, it didn't look like it was showing anyway. Yeah. Useless things I got my child.
Useless thing that I got my child.
Did you see that? Did you see that guy exposed? That's a deadbeat dad. Okay. That's a deadbeat dad. And there are many videos like that. Many videos like that. Yeah. So mothers are coming on social media and exposing the fathers who are deadbeat, who are refusing to provide for their children. And their children are beautiful, and the kids, and so many of these men are being recognized by society. Yeah. The society is saying, oh my goodness, I know that guy. Oh my goodness, that guy is my boss. Oh my goodness, you mean this man is married? What do you mean this? Oh my goodness, you mean him, that doctor? I know that guy. Some of them even have a lab coat on, they're doctors. So this is the way that that they're doing it. This is the justice that mothers are getting. And pressure, trying to put pressure because I guess of the failing judicial system where they can't force the fathers to provide for their children. So the fathers are begging the moms now, please do not expose me on social media. It's okay. I'll be paying. How much money do you want me to pay? Other parents are deciding that they're going to pay to the pay bill number on M-Pesa, mobile money directly, maybe to school fees or whatever, but at least they're paying something. So it's actually pressurizing men to come up and step up and be parents. Yes. So Grace, you didn't know. Now you know. Now you know. Yeah, that's what's going on social media. And let me show you guys some more stuff here going on. Okay, now I want to show you the cost of living problems that we're having all over. Yeah. Okay.
actually fucked. Okay, check this out. $37, bro. Okay, this is fucked.
They're showing the cost of food products. $37 for butter, $18 for block of cheese.
$18, bro. Actually fucked, bro. I'm gonna sell my kidney for a block of cheese. Like,
He has to
honestly,
sell his
it's
kidney for a
gluten-free,
block of cheese.
So we gotta buy gluten-free bread.
Can you
Yeah, it's not
can you
very
increase the
loud.
volume?
Let me stop sharing that because it's not very clear. I'm sorry about that. Yeah. So let me share others. Let me just share others so that you just get to see. Yeah, it's all over the world. People are complaining all over the world.
To use their washer and dryer. How are people affording life right now? How are people tackling this cost of living on the average American salary? I just watched a TikTok of a teacher who makes a teacher's salary. I don't know what state she's in, so I don't know how much she makes, but her one-bedroom apartment is $2,000. And when she spends $2,000 on that one-bedroom apartment, it doesn't even come with a washer and dryer. So she has to go pay an additional $2 every time she wants to use their washer and dryer. Okay, like, how does that leave her any extra money to spend? And then she said she had a $400 car payment, which some people were bashing her on that. But in today's economy with interest rates, that's really not that bad. And I'm sure she needs a dependable car. So you talk about teacher's salary, $2,000 in rent, $400 car payment. You got insurance, you got groceries, electricity. Like, I don't understand how people are affording life right now. And it really makes me sad for some people. You have people who are like her. She's single. She has her own salary, or families where it just works out best for them, for the mother to stay home. And if the father is just making an average American salary, how are they affording life without going in a bunch of debt?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'll show little clips. There's really good clips out there that, you guys need, for those of you maybe who are not on TikTok, I think this would be helpful for you guys to know. I've selected the ones that I think are interesting and very informative and useful. Let's see if I can share. Here's a girl who's in Canada. An African girl.
I've been living in Canada for 10 years, so here are 10 things that I don't like about Canada. Let's go. First of all, food is getting so expensive. Like, you can literally live off of dollar store food, which is also still expensive, by the way. Like, it's insane. I'm literally eating chickpeas and rice, and that's just considered like luxury because I can't afford meat or chicken. Gas is so expensive right now to the point where I want to walk or take the transit, but also transit is getting more expensive because more people are taking transit. So it's just, it's crazy. It's insane out here. If you have a child, trust me, you're going to be making all your money, all your paycheck is just going to be going to your child or daycare, because daycare is like rent. Daycare is like $2,000 a month. The real estate has basically skyrocketed and everything is just so expensive, and we just can't afford it. I just can't afford to live in a big ass house because I can't afford it. I might as well just live in my parents' basement until I get married. Don't even get me started with the healthcare. Healthcare here literally sucks. So the fact that a lot of people have to wait over 6 months, actually 3 years. I know someone who has to get hernia surgery, and he has to wait 3 years to get hernia surgery. 3 years. That is mental. That's mental. Another one that I really never understood till today is you work and you get paid every 2 weeks, and the government takes taxes off of your paycheck every 2 weeks. And then at the end of the year, they just take more. They take more. They don't give you, they take more, because now inflation is more. This is not really an issue for me anymore, but I just have a lot of friends that are international students. I just don't understand why they charge international students 4 times the price of a class when a regular student, a normal student, gets the class for $700, and they're costing you like $2,000 for a class. That's insane. Oh, one more. BC insurance. I don't know about other provinces, but BC insurance is like a scam. Literally a whole scam. It's like you have a premium Netflix subscription and you don't watch anything. That's literally BC insurance. A scam, a whole scam. Anyways.
I love the way this lady communicates. I think she's brilliant. Yep. And yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Insurance is a scam, and it's a scam everywhere. It's a scam here in Kenya as well. It's a scam. You go over there talking about Shifsha and all the other insurances out there. It's scary. Okay, let's see. This one I'm going to show. This is the last one I'm going to show you guys. This is the last clip I'm going to show you, and then we'll go back to our discussion. This one was very interesting.
This is why I feel like the cost of living has never been as bad as it is right now. Because it used to be when the cost of living was high, it was for the things that you need in life. Food, gas, shelter, etc. All those things cost a lot of money. Right now, all of those things still cost a lot of money. And also, I feel like it's just expensive to just be alive. Like, I feel like my life, as soon as I wake up, is literally just me putting down a credit card, and it's just a tab. And life is a bartender. And it's just like, what are you going to have? And I'm just like, I'm okay. I don't really need anything today. And it's just like, oh, really? Well, if you're going to be here, you're going to need to spend money. And I'm just like, what do you mean here? I'm just in the world. And it's just like, yeah, you have to buy something now. It's even getting to the point where, like, I feel like even my thoughts are getting expensive, you know? like I could just have the thought of like, my nose is a little stuffy. And then all of a sudden, I open up my phone 10 minutes later and have 12 ads for like, oh, you have a pollen allergy and you got to buy these anti-pollen allergy pills or you're going to suffocate in your sleep. Sleep is the only place I still feel kind of safe. But even there, it's like I could have sleep problems for one night and then I wake up feeling kind of groggy and all of a sudden I'm getting targeted ads for melatonin gummies. It's like all of our necessities are still expensive. And then also just every increment of our life costs something.
Weaponization of social media. Even your thoughts are expensive. It's true, because if you think about anything, before you know it, on your phone, they're trying to sell you something. Like he said that he wakes up in the middle of the night because of maybe he can't sleep, and then they're trying to sell him gummy bears, melatonin gummy bears, you know? And it's really true, because you just have to think of something and then you just check your phone and it's over there prescribing something for you. Yeah. That is so funny. Okay, so let's see. Fia, what are you saying? I think if you have enough garden, balcony space, plant vegetables, herbs, spices, fruit, chickens, and chickens for eggs. Yeah, that's true. Here, it's easy to say but difficult to do, because you know what's happening in the villages, that a lot of women are planting food and then the young men come in the middle of the night and they steal. That's happening a lot. Did you know about that, Susan? It's happening in the villages. It's happening in Mombasa. People are climbing over the fences because many people are also addicted to drugs. If because of addiction, people need to service their addiction, so they'll come and take whatever is lying around. Like if you have extra bricks or building materials or chickens or eggs lying around, you might find yourself without them, especially if you're in a village setting, which is the majority of people. Yeah. Again, also, people are growing food everywhere. At least in Kenya, people grow food everywhere. But you find because of hunger, people start to take, you know, where they hadn't planted. Whereas before, it used to be kind of like a gentleman's agreement. People don't just pick food from the streets from the sidewalks. If you did not plant it, you don't pick it. It's just been us. But now, because of hunger, people are picking. You know, and then Fia is saying imported African foods are quite costly. I can imagine. And you know, as an African, you want to eat your food because you know that they're rich and they're high quality, they have nutrients, they're nutrient dense. And then if you can't get them in those countries, and then on top of that, you don't have sunshine, you are messed up, you know? Yeah. I was thinking of actually getting some chickens and eggs, but because of where we live, I worry about vermin. I really worry about, you know, who else is interested in the eggs around here? Living in hot, dry conditions. Yeah, you have to be careful. But anyway, yes, a lot of people are, anyway, they are doing that. Susan, would you like to say something? And also let's focus, like Grace is saying, let's try and focus a little bit more on how is it impacting families? How is it? You can see these are men, they're so stressed out by cost of living. I really feel, even women, but a lot of men are talking about it.
Yeah. Well, one thing, yeah, certainly. I mean, it's like we've said, we've talked a lot about the way people are responding to the issues. Yeah, and it's good to try to find solutions to it, to the situation, and not allow it to overwhelm us and our families and our our children. In the spaces where we are the ones who are the lead decision makers.
Yeah.
Or
Sorry,
not
Susan, I think I
necessarily.
brought you in a little bit too early because I know you're going to go into solutions, but I wanted to give a little bit of a discussion in terms of providing the situation as it is currently, with mental health problems right now. Do we have a rising suicide rate? Like, for example, globally or in Kenya? Yes. When I looked into my research, I found out that there's a rise in suicide rates, especially amongst males. And in Kenya, it's due to financial hardships, including escalating cost of living, significantly contributing to that. And in 2024, last year, there was a survey by a company called InfoTrack. It revealed that 51%, that's over half of Kenyans, identified the high cost of living as their primary concern, followed by unemployment, 36%, that's a third of them, and corruption at about a quarter. Okay, so economic pressures are linked to increased stress and depression, and in some cases, suicidal behavior amongst men. Okay, in one county called Kirinyaga, there's a governor called Anne Waiguru. She launched a mental health program in March 2025 to address the rising suicide rates amongst men, and attributing these incidents to mental health challenges arising from depression and family pressures. Okay, there was also a follow-up analysis this year, 2025. It highlighted that approximately 1,408 people died by suicide annually in Kenya. Okay, with economically disadvantaged populations being significantly affected. So the poorer people are also, dying at a higher rate. Okay, so there is a link between economic pressure and suicide. And basically, financial distress is causing heightened stress within households, escalating into domestic abuse and suicidal tendencies. So when we talk about domestic abuse, we're also talking about child abuse as well, which is really sad. And I can imagine that the child abuse situation right now in many households is not even adequately being captured or covered. Okay, so when you compare, like, for example, the Kenya male suicide mortality of 9 out of 100,000, the rate is slightly lower than the general Africa region, which is about 11. Okay, but I mean, it's not really that much lower. Really, it's high. So basically, what are the things that are linked to? What are the mental health issues that are linked to escalating cost of living? So, for example, in the United Kingdom, it's increased anxiety and stress, because like about 30% or nearly a third of UK adults have reported feeling anxious, and about a quarter of them, 27%, have felt stress in the past month because of financial concerns. And I believe that's probably very underreported. Yeah. Depression, about 20% of individuals experiencing depression, suicidal thoughts. Financial stress has led to 6% of people in England and Wales contemplating suicide, equating to 2.7 million individuals. Can you imagine? 2.7 million individuals. The total population of the UK is 60 million. So 2.7 million is what percent of that population? It's like just a bit under, it's 0.25%, I think. Yeah. It's basically under 5%. It's just under 5%, like half of 5%. So then, but it's still, significant. So they're saying that they're pronounced. Those things are actually the feelings of suicide or mental health challenges are pronounced among those with pre-existing conditions, like Susan mentioned earlier. And basically, there is a global cost of living crisis. It is true, and therefore, it's not imagined. And because there's higher elevated inflation, a sluggish economic growth, and escalating living expenses. The IMF projects that global growth of 3.3%, which is almost equal to Kenya, as they say, for 2025 to 2026, which is actually below the historical average. So basically, economic growth is viewed as decreasing over the next year or two. Food prices, meanwhile, are expected to surge to rise, basically, And the staples, so for example, are going to rise. And like in Nigeria, the problem of inflation has been higher. In the impact on the households is high food prices, lower purchasing power, and higher cost of living. And as you can see, listening to the way the Nigerians were expressing themselves, you can see and feel the frustration. You really can. And so we should not underplay, because we should not downplay the impacts. We should actually talk about it and let our governments know that we are not happy with the way situation is. And we know that the rising inflation, rising cost of living is having an effect on people's mental health. It's having an effect on people's feeling of safety and security in their households. And therefore, there's going to be a lot of separations, probably divorces. Many men will abandon their children, like you're seeing here, for the useless things that I got my child. Many men are abandoning their children. Mothers might do the same, but it would be rare for mothers to do that. But what will happen is that a lot of women will deny themselves. So you'll find, like when I used to do surveys in the field, we used to weigh both mothers and children. Okay, when we're looking for wasting and stunting levels, like in different parts of the countries, of children under 5 years or under 60 months, we would weigh not just the child, but also the mother, because we would know that the mothers deny themselves food. They deny themselves nourishment to give it to their children when times are tough. So we should actually be monitoring the health of women right now, because a lot of women are going to be going without to feed their children. Really, they will. And the cost of food really has to be looked into, especially in the West, even here in Africa. But in the West, unfortunately, it's even worse, because you see, they're tied to supermarkets. There's no other way for them to make any money. There's no mother in the village they're going to ask them to send them a bag of potatoes or a chicken from the village. That's not coming in the UK. In the US and the UK, food inflation has really risen in the US. And people gotten to the point where they have to choose between living in a house, or eating food. So things are bad. So when we are always, putting so much pressure on fellow Africans to send money to us, to send us money, the people who are living abroad, I think we need to stop that, and even probably find a way to support those people who are living outside the country, and see how, we can support them by not being so demanding on this part of the world. Our governments as well should also stop being so demanding over young people, because it's going to impact on people's ability to even have children. It's getting to the point where a lot of people are not even thinking of having children, or even getting married or settling down. So it's having an effect on us. But now I'd like Susan to tell us, what are the solutions, Susan? What can we do about this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Adrian is
Before we
saying
go there,
2.6 of 60 million is 4.3%, minus 4.3%. I don't know what Adrian's saying there. He's trying to do his calculations. Okay, Adrian, go ahead with your calculations. Go on, Susan.
Yeah, I just want to talk about the accountability policing through the name and shame of what they're calling men who don't pay, they don't take care of their children. They don't pay child support through the social media. Definitely, when you think about it, the privacy laws and stuff like that, there's some challenge in my mind. I'm not sure all lawyers would agree on the issue of privacy and the legality of really just posting somebody's face and naming and shaming them on social media. But meanwhile, it's had some sort of response, because people don't want the legality of it has taken a back seat, because it's happening like organically, it appears. But I think just a word of caution for those mothers who are doing that: don't forget, your children will see those too. And if you've not perhaps discussed it with them in advance, they're going to see them, and you may have to deal with other psychological effects of making them embarrassed too, that their classmates have seen those videos also on the chat, and they're seeing that you're saying that their dad is like literally a deadbeat person. So that can bring the
Actually, that's
child
true.
again to
Yeah.
two levels of ridicule. So we need to think again about that. Even calling somebody's biological father, putative father, a deadbeat somebody, is really you're undermining the dignity of that child when you think about it. You're undermining the dignity of that child. So it's really important to make sure that the child's best interest is paramount. It's the most important thing. So the way you respond is right. It doesn't matter how badly the person has behaved, but I have issues with that. I'm calling it social media accountability policing, because literally that's what's happening, getting a response to it and stuff like that. I'm expecting that there's going to be over time there's going to be some sort of issues, legal issues raised about that. The other thing is the issue of being ostentatious, the rich poor divide. These gentlemen on the Nigerian video were talking about, like these guys are flying their jets. I mean, it's as if that person was talking about Kenya, because the young people.
Exactly. I was wondering, what are they talking about? It's really, it's
ostentatious here again.
replicating itself everywhere. Even Zimbabwe is like that. When you listen to people
Yeah.
from Zimbabwe, they're complaining about the
Coming
same
in.
thing.
So it means it's a problem. It's a serious problem where the rich are really, really rich. They're controlling. Here we're calling it in Kenya. We're talking about it being the politicians and the elite, and the formation of oligarchs. They have a lot of money. There's some very few people who have a lot of money, and then most people don't. And so that ostentatious behavior actually is one of the things that the Gen Zs do not like. The issue of cost of living is actually one of the issues that was raised in these 10 points of the current handshake, the broad-based government. The cost of living, the rising cost of living has been a concern of this nation because of the effects of it. Like we talked about the mental health effects of it. And let me tell you, even when people have mental health issues, they're not as productive as they should be, because even though it takes a while, there's a lot of money is spent now on medicine, that health burden or health, the cost going towards health is increasing, and the productivity will be reducing because of the mental health issues. We know that they can devastate your ability to focus and concentrate.
And that
So
works
look,
very well for the people who want to continue to see people depending on them.
yeah,
For it works well for big pharma. It also works well for the kinds of people in this world who want to control, the sources of production and the means of production, and want to control how much people are able to progress or not. It can be actually seen as sabotage of African countries, sabotage of countries in the South, in the global South. Yeah, by putting in leaders that don't care about the well-being of their people, the well-being. And you can see that there's complaints all over. So you see, there's complaints about Tinubu in Nigeria, 30-day challenge. I'm really following it. You guys, you should be following this 30-day challenge. Yes, Nigerians, open your mouth, speak up. The same thing, by the way, South Africans. For the first time, I've seen South Africans are also speaking up. Yeah. So Kenyan Gen Zs are having an impact. I can say this is Kenyan Gen Zs impact all over Africa. People are opening their mouth and speaking up. Traditionally, in countries where people don't speak up, they are now talking about it. I've never seen South Africans complaining about the cost of living. I've never seen South Africans actually empathizing with Nigerians and telling them, you know what, it's bad there, it's also bad here, brother. It's really nice to see South Africans empathize with Nigerians. This is a real change. That is a huge, huge shift. And that's great. I mean, we Africans, we should all come together and empathize with one another, help one another, and, show humanity, show Ubuntu, show Umuntu to each other, because we are all in this together. Unless, of course, you're the top 1%. Very few of you, very few.
I think it's even a smaller percentage than that.
Yeah.
So, just going on to look
Pia says Zimbabweans missed the bus. Pia, no, Zimbabweans are talking. They're talking. They're coming out slowly. They're coming up slowly. But I saw that there was a complaint that if they do speak up, that they might find themselves in problems. But then we've been seeing a lot of Zimbabweans nationals who live in the UK and abroad moving back to Zimbabwe, setting up farms, and experiencing, sharing their experience with trying to do business in Zimbabwe, how they're doing well and or how they're getting burnt by it. But overall, they're still saying that still the answer is to go back eventually, because the cost of living in the UK is too high for most Africans families.
Yeah. Mhm.
Grace is saying, but Mo, what is the EFF Economic Freedom Party about? Oh my goodness, that's another whole show, Grace, and you're going to be in studio. We'll talk about it we're going to talk about it in the geopolitics show. And by the way, we're changing that one to Mondays. Yeah, the geopolitics show. So thank you for the question. The other thing we're going to address is Ethiopia because you asked for it. You've also asked about the EFF, so we'll address that too. Susan.
Yeah. I
Julius
was
Malema's
talking
party.
now about solution, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they being pessimistic doesn't help because we still have to survive.
Yeah, it
So
doesn't.
we
It
need
doesn't. Yeah.
we need to change our mindset. So basically, the responses to uh, high cost of living are in like 4 categories. There's the focus on self-care, seek support, practice financial management, strategies to reduce stress and anxiety. The fourth one is practice mindfulness and resilience. So just to break them down, first, prioritize self-care. So we look at our physical health. So it's right to try within our best of our means to eat a healthy regular meal. You heard the young lady talking about eating rice and chickpeas. She can't afford meat, so she's eating rice and chickpeas. So, there are ways to check and make sure that you're getting the nutrients that you need through less expensive items. Reducing the amount of meat you eat in a week, that is one of them. If you're vegetarian, maybe it's the eggs, which are very expensive. But if you're in the US, you know how expensive the eggs are now. In Kenya, shillings is equating to about 98 shillings for one. Stay hydrated, drink water, drink fluids, and get enough sleep. We've talked about sleep, lack of sleep being very, very dangerous for us. Second, exercise. Do regular exercise. It can improve your mood. So it helps you to focus. You're feeling fatigued about something else. It also helps you to sleep better. Swimming is really good, by the way. It makes you really tired and you'll end up wanting to sleep. Relaxation. Incorporate relaxing activities into your daily routine or taking walks. In Kenya, we have lovely forests that you can walk in and places like that, and it's quite refreshing. Your mind is off. You're trying to negotiate various terrains, up and downhill, round corners, and it's just a good experience. The other one is find hobbies that really keep your mind engaged, which you enjoy doing and which you find very, very fulfilling. If it's singing, you do it. If it is, building things, you find that time to do that. So that is prioritizing self-care. So we've talked about physical health, minding your physical health, doing exercises, relaxation, and hobbies. The second category is seek support. So you have to find somebody to speak to, friends, family, or a professional. Join support groups where you're able to speak in a group with people who are experiencing the same thing you're experiencing. And so you support each other to sort of go through that valley. And the other one is reach out to organizations. This is where you look for mental health helplines. And we heard the lady talking about the mental health space being legislated in Kenya and all that. The problem is, of course, it's also connected to our healthcare system. So unless you have some few shillings, it may not be as accessible as it should be. And I'm sure the indicators on that are not so strong in Kenya. And then we have manage financial stress. That's the third one. So create a budget to track your income and expenditure and also savings. Try to save something small. It doesn't matter how much it is, just something small. Track your income and expenditure, which means you have to adjust how many things you're buying. And in fact, we've been looking at our shopping carts today we can say that the buying power of the money we're holding, even if you look at it's a certain amount that you had in your hand last year, what you have in your hand this year, you find is that, literally, so money where you couldn't carry what you've shopped, you had to put it in a trolley and push it. That money, now you can really just have 2 carrier bags and just carry whatever you've shopped with, like that. This is in Kenya. I'm sure other countries are experiencing similar things. Create that budget, track your income, cut down things that are not our wants. Just focus on things that you need, and then also you track your income. So you also need to use innovative methods to try and supplement your income. A suggestion I heard on one of our people in the show said, grow your food, grow as much food as you can, get the chickens there and all that. And Maureen said she's afraid because of the vermin that will come, but sometimes you also have countermeasures for vermin too. And if others have done it, you can do it too. And even if you're in a small space, there are different ways to grow sukumas in an upright, like garden, in a sack. So the food is growing out like this. So you can, even in small spaces, you can actually produce food to feed your family. So explore income opportunities and seek an additional source of income and ways to increase it, and then seek additional financial advice. The fourth method is to practice mindfulness and resilience. Resilience is so important. It helps you to bounce back. It helps you to hold your head up high, even though your status may have changed. It doesn't take away your sense of pride, your sense of self, your sense of dignity. Basically, if you need to look after your family, you will actually change your lifestyle methods if you're a committed family person. So you seek additional sources of income, and then you also seek practice mindfulness and resilience. Focus on the present. We have a tendency to look back and say, oh, I used to make this amount of money, we used to be able to do this, we used to be able to do this, but now we are in a crisis. We are in a crisis. The standard of living is too high, and we have to cut down some of the things we're doing. If you used to go out, in fact, interestingly, we're talking about this with my children in the course of the day, because we went somewhere and we found we were going to the supermarket, but the tea places, the food places were full. And so they're saying, oh, it's really interesting. Despite the economy not being good, people are still going out. And I said, well, what has happened is that people are going out, but they're reducing the number the number of times they go out. So it's relative to each individual. So whereas they used to go out, say, every day, now they're going out 4 times a week, or 3 times a week. And those who used to go out 3 times a week are going out once a week or something like that.
Yeah.
And probably Sunday is the best time for that to happen.
And let's not forget, Susan, add to this. Do you know how many apps there are for borrowing money? Everybody is on overdraft. So many of them, many of those people, many of them are borrowing to go out, because it's very difficult to change your lifestyle. It's difficult to change the way you used to live. You'd rather adapt by trying maybe to borrow money here, borrow money there, pay some money at the end of the month, like that. Yeah. So of course there are others also who are doing well. I mean, it's not everybody who's not doing well. Some people are managing through this economic situation. Anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's focus on the present. Just keep your eyes, engage in activities and spaces that keep you grounded and aware of your surroundings. So this issue of being ostentatious, it's completely insensitive and lacking in awareness, because people are on the streets, literally saying, don't give us money. We want to work so that we can take care of ourselves. We want to put food in our mouth, dishing out handouts. The third president of this republic, President Kibaki, used to say, don't give people fish, teach them how to fish.
Teach them how to fish.
In other words, provide a conducive environment where we can thrive. That is actually the more sustainable solution. And then we have the practice gratitude. Always appreciate what you have, the positive aspects of your life. And this perhaps would help maybe if you just wrote those things down. It would keep you encouraged just to know, yes, this has gone well for me. I've been able to get a job here. I've got more jobs here, or I have got into networks, which, an activity that makes me feel uplifted, the other thing that we need to do is set realistic goals. I know we are not good at doing that, but it's important to do that. So you break down large tasks into manageable ones. You make it something that is more something that you can cope with. Because again, if it is such a big task, you start to avoid doing it, and then if you have some mental health issues, you could end up procrastinating because the task is so daunting you're not able to address it. So you have to break it down into smaller pieces. I've seen, I don't know how this is coming. I've seen this on on YouTube. I'm talking about a challenge of 28 days so that you don't procrastinate. So they're giving, and this is for seniors, and they're giving them something little to do every day so they don't procrastinate. So and also, so if you procrastinate, it's not a sign of laziness. It could be a sign of mental health issue. It could be a sign of depression. It could be a sign of anxiety, feeling overwhelmed, and sort of panicking because you're not able to address all those things that you're supposed to do. So it's important to prioritize what needs to be done, and then even what you prioritize, you need to do it in bite-sized pieces. And with the knowledge, at the end of the day, you'll be able to tick all the boxes and what you wanted to achieve, or at least most of them, a good percentage that will help you feel fulfilled. So you break down the large tasks to manageable ones. Lastly, learn to cope with stress. Develop healthy coping mechanisms. That's something we all need to do. Issues like we've talked about some extreme responses to stress that includes suicide, which includes familicide, which includes self-harm, and stuff like that. Those are situations where people feel really helpless, or they have mental health issues which have been exacerbated by the stress that they're going through. So learning how to cope with stress is a life skill. It's something that is essential, something that we should all learn to do, and be able to recognize early that we are going down a rabbit hole which is unsafe for us, especially if you're the one everybody's looking up to. So I decided to check on what healthy coping mechanism means, because we keep that phrase keeps coming up. And there are strategies that help us to manage stress and difficult emotions in a constructive way. So the issue, of course, the underlying there is that is a strategy, manage stress and emotions in a constructive way, in a way that is going to yield, which is not harmful, which is going to yield positive results. We've talked about exercise, we talked about meditation, and there are different forms of meditation. Christians meditate, they meditate on the word of God, and they reflect on what it says, and it encourages them. There are other faiths too that meditate, and stuff like that. Journaling, writing things down. Queen Mo is an evaluator, and and we know, and she does monitoring and evaluation by profession, and we know that journaling is something that's really important. It keeps track of what you did every day, of how you were feeling, and sometimes just putting it down really helps you to acknowledge it and to process it in a positive way. Look for social support and also problem solving. It's not just to complain about the situation, but look for a way to mitigate it, so that you'll be able to address it in a way so it stops overwhelming you. And so the lifestyle change, the cost of living issue can really be a very, very overwhelming thing. going from driving a car to having to use the bus or walk. It can be that extreme in certain circumstances. Changing where you live, changing where your children go to school. It's also it also shakes the children because they have to adjust to making new friends. They have to adjust to a different style of school. They have to adjust to, answering questions they don't really want to talk about. And so others activities that are really, really good at helping, which are positive coping mechanisms, is doing jigsaw puzzles. There's those for adults and even for children. And some you can actually do with your families. I know a friend who does hers with her family. And there are different levels of jigsaw puzzles. We all know that. The other one is drawing, coloring, or painting. These days, they actually have adult coloring books. And some are really, really advanced and some are more different. Personally, I enjoy coloring. I find it such a joy to color and to relax. It helps me to think, even to process information. The other one is listening to uplifting music. You listen to it. If you like, you can sing. You can also play. I know somebody who plays the organ, who plays an instrument to de-stress from his very high stress job. So we're all individuals and we have different things that we like to do that help us to relax. Some people like to read. They love reading books. Others want to watch sports on the screens. Having even conversations with friends about not your problems, but maybe how to solve them, is very, very, very helpful. So those are some of the pointers that I came up with. What my research showed me are suggested ways of handling, managing the cost of living crisis and how to respond to it. So there's prioritizing self-care, seeking support, managing financial stress, and then practicing mindfulness and resilience. Basically telling you, love yourself, find solutions, don't wallow in it. Be optimistic and not pessimistic.
Very encouraging, Susan. Can you hear me? Okay, great. Very encouraging, very, very encouraging. And Grace is with you on that. She says, Susan, I enjoy crochet. Just the ins and outs of the needle and making the patterns is great for her. She enjoys that. It's relaxing for her. Wow, that's great. Well, the rest of us, you know what we like doing? We like shopping, eh? We enjoy it. We like shopping. We like getting up, getting into the car, drive somewhere, go meet a friend, go to town and just like hang out, doing nothing, walking around, window shopping. Even if I don't have money, I'm telling you, I will window shop. So this is what I do. Talking about being innovative, this is my newest here. Can you guys see this? I don't know if you can see it. Which way now? I think this way. Maybe it's too close. Can you see that? That's a handbag.
Yeah, we can.
You may not be able to see it very well, but I'm taking pictures and I was trying to download it, but I think my phone is full. I don't know. So that you could see. I'm actually doing sales online. I'm getting very, very close to, I've got a whole bunch of beautiful ladies' handbags. And I've decided I'm going to start selling them to my friends and to anybody who's interested and online. I just want to do it. I just want to do something different. The other thing I love doing is I love, you see these African earrings. I don't know if I'm wearing these. Yeah, I am wearing a pair of African earrings here. You see them there? Well, let me bring them here. You see, those are silver. They're beautiful. Very, very beautiful. So that's what I love. I love like buying that kind of thing and selling it, and I wasn't planning to talk about this. It's not like I was going to do that. But I'm an entrepreneur, naturally. I like entrepreneuring and I like entrepreneurship and I like lovely little things. Yes. So I love shopping and I find it therapeutic. It actually uplifts me. You cannot believe that I'll get up and just start dancing just because I saw something nice and I purchased it. It doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be nice. And it could also be one of Grace's crochet blankets. Talking about crochet, I bought a very beautiful crochet blanket from my friend who runs elderly care, elderly, like some sort of classes for the elderly. Yeah. So they come in to do exercise and stuff like that. So, yeah, something like that. Yes. So it's made into this beautiful big blanket. It's right on my bed. I'll take a picture of it next time and show it to you. Remind me to put it here and show it to you. Yeah. So I bought it from them, and that makes me so happy because it's so many brilliant colors. Not just buying something from the shop just like that. So when I go into my room, my bed just like boom, it just stands out. It's red and blue and pink and green and yellow, and it looks like my grandmother's bed, actually. It doesn't even look like my bed. It looks like old Mother Hubbard's bed. Yeah. But I like it because when I go into the room, it just brightens up my day. So it's called what? Retail therapy. Retail therapy. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Retail therapy, that's me. So I love going in and looking for a nice deal. So of course I end up putting myself into more of a rabbit hole because in terms of money, but then it also motivates me to work harder and look for that money elsewhere. That's why I'm selling the bags. So that when I go and buy, I also sell. I buy something like a blanket and I sell a bag, you see. So either way, they balance out. So I think some of us, of course, I like music, I like cooking, I like that kind of thing. But cooking comes with eating, so that's not a very good thing. But I just love going into town. I like going to do my hair, have a different look, do something crazy, experimental. I don't know what you guys like to do. Of course, I like talking on the phone all the time, literally. I like walking around. I like talking to my monkey outside, my monkeys, the monkey family. And I just enjoy nature. By the way, I love nature. Nature is very calming. When there's that therapy of putting your feet on the ground, grounding. Grounding is very important. Yeah, remove your shoes and put your feet sometimes on the ground, on the grass. Put your feet on the grass because it's almost like, we are electrical beings. Like they've discovered the pyramids all of a sudden are electricity, right? They're energy. So we're energy. We need to be like grounded by the earth. So somehow I think that the more we spend time in nature, the more that we actually uplift ourselves and improve our mental health. And I think we have really underestimated the power of nature. We're surrounded by it. It's like the solution is right there in your face, right there. But we don't take advantage of it. Yeah, go pick a few flowers, go take a tree, go look at a leaf, go look, enjoy, go get a binoculars and look at the birds. They're continuing their life regardless of the situation, even if your landlord is at your neck. Another thing, of course, now practical solutions is reduce your living expenses. Reduce your outgoings as much as possible, like Susan was saying. So if you're living in a high expensive end home because you're used to it and you like it and you're used to that living and you have all this furniture that you don't know what to do with, yeah, there are secondhand shops that can take your furniture. There are children's homes that can take your furniture. There are old people's homes that can take your furniture. There are poor people that need your furniture. You can give it away. And sometimes when you give things away that you purchased, you actually feel good about it. Yeah? There's something good about giving. So even without selling, you can give it away. Anything that will get you out of that debt that you don't need, that every month that you have to pay this much money for that. And now the fortunate thing in countries like Kenya, and I'm sure maybe Nigerians, other places, you can go further out and still live in a house that's pretty decent. It didn't used to be like that a long time ago, but now there's so many more choices. So you can just decide, yeah, to up. You may not want to disappoint your child. So maybe you'll find that in a different city. You might find it depending on your job. If you're more flexible, you can find a different city or a different part of the city. You can move. And it's okay to move, actually. It's all right. Because you'll be surprised how quickly children adapt. Children adapt so fast, and in fact, they'll help you as an adult also to adapt. Okay, So thank you so much. I think Grace, thank you so much. You said the session was great. Have a heavy, yeah, she has a heavy week. Yeah, blessed and peaceful night. Yeah, we also are closing now. Thank you so much for staying with us. It's been late. It's past 12 o'clock and it is a Sunday night. So thank you for being with us. Thank you, Adrian, Grace, Fia, and everybody else who's been watching us. We've been seeing you. Thank you, Suzanne, and we wish you all a good night. And keep well, take care of yourselves, and know that you're not alone. Yeah, we're all in this together, and we're gonna survive. We are gonna survive it. Okay, bye bye. Good night and to-dos. Bye bye from Susan and I. Thank you. Bye bye.